All right, everybody, welcome once again to the ThreeView Mirror, a podcast where us old people, or starting to get old people, try to relive our glory days by bringing up three seemingly random topics that at the end of the episode, we will bring together in a way that will shock and amaze you, or at the very least, moderately entertain you. Now, it's important to remember that only our host for the episode knows the three topics, and the rest of us are going to be as surprised as you are when we hear that. I'm John Catridis, better known as Gen X Jono across all my social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and I am joined by my two regular co-hosts and one very special co-host. Today we are welcoming Carmen Galahar for a very special ThreeView Mirror Christmas episode. Carmen can be found all over social media as well, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and her small town drama internet soap opera has people tied to it and engaged on the screens like we were way back when we were all wondering who shot JR. We can start by introducing ourselves. Chris?
I'm Chris Clues, better known as Chris Clues. I am a keynote speaker and author. I talk about the work and life lessons that we can learn from 80s pop culture, the best decade.
And I'm Rochelle O'Black, better known as Gen X Show across my social media accounts, where I focus on Gen X content and generally what it means to be Gen X in today's world.
And Carmen?
I'm Carmen Galahar, and you can find me at Carmen Q Galahar on all my social media accounts. And I do Gen X content, but I create them with skits.
So today, Carmen is our host. She's running the show. She is going to take us down a journey that will go through the 70s, 80s, 90s. But today, her three topics have a Christmas bent to them. And as I said before, Chris, Shell, and I have no idea what she's come up with. So at this point, Carmen, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can let us know what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, so I love Christmas movies. So I'm so happy that y'all asked me to do the Christmas edition of y'all's show. And so here are the three Christmas movies that I have chosen. The first one is Year Without a Santa Claus. Yes,
All
love
right.
that one. And then I've got, of course, Christmas Vacation. Gotta love some vacation. And Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. I've got Home Alone.
Nice.
Awesome.
So definitely 70s, 80s. And when was Home Alone released? 90s.
90.
Yeah.
Very nice.
1990.
90.
So the first topic was Year Without a Santa Claus.
Year Without a Santa Claus. So how many of you how many of you watched that one just
Oh my God.
recently or over and over?
Over
right?
and over.
Santa is sick and he's seen by the doctor and he's like, oh, nobody really, like he kind of puts in his head that nobody really believes in Santa anymore.
Heat miser, snow miser.
Yeah.
Heat miser and snow miser are in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So-
they're all Raskin. I can't remember the name of the producer.
Bass and Rankin.
Bass and Rankin. So
Yeah.
a lot of those were Bass and Rankin produced cartoons. And I was reading up on that actually the other day, and they were meant to exist all in the same, kind of like the Marvel universe today. They did a similar thing with the Christmas movies, making sure they used the same voices. Mickey Rooney as Santa Claus a lot of the time, the same imagery. In Year Without a Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus can be seen with little red streaks in her hair.
Yeah.
And in the movie Santa Claus is Coming to Town, you see her as a young Jessica with red hair. So it connects all the way through.
That's the one I
For
was
sure.
confusing it with because I've watched these so many times, almost on instant replay, that sometimes the movies just, they kind of blend.
I was showing my kids and my kids just love the misers and the shade that these guys throw at each other is hilarious.
I love the Heat Miser. I
Yes,
love all the little guys. He's Mr. Heat Miser. He's Mr. Hot. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, almost Broadway caliber productions, right? Done through claymation, stop action
yeah.
animation, and
Yeah.
the songs and the choreography and the characterization. I mean, it was incredible at the time. And there was something, we talk about it all the time, like the hidden jokes for the parents and the stuff for the kids. And they had all of that in there.
I would love to see how it was made, kind of a movie where they show you just how long it would take to make just one of those scenes.
The movements.
I'm absolutely curious of what that would have entailed. I mean, I know how claymation works, but how long did it take? Because my favorite thing is the Bumble. You know, when you watch the Bumble in Rudolph, you know, you could see his fur shifting because, you know, when you're watching it. And that was always one of my favorite parts. I'm like, ooh, his fur's even moving whenever I was a kid.
So I heard that the little puppets that they used, like one of the secretaries had them and she had them in her attic. So for years they were looking for them.
Really?
And there's only like a few that are left because she used to let her kids play with them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She let her kids burn millions of dollars playing with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they found them, I want to say maybe in the 90s or something.
Wow.
But there was only like 3 of them that they could that were in good shape. The others had been kind of played with too much.
That's insane. Those things should be in like the Smithsonian.
Really?
And it said Margaret had them in her attic.
Yeah.
I think her name was Margaret.
Of course it was.
It has to be.
The only thing better than Ruth was Aunt Bethany.
Oh my God, Aunt Bethany.
Aunt Bethany. Poor Aunt
Yeah,
Bethany.
I love even like Elf, you know, Elf had a nod to the claymations, you know, by Mr. Norwell or Norwal, by with Mr. Norwal, the whale. And like that was one of my favorite parts, just that little piece, because it really it transported me back to being 6 or 7 years old and waiting for those shows. So as great as the movie Elf is, one of my favorite parts was just that little nod to the claymation of old.
I think they had to refix those parts, or they had to do something to it because it was too similar. Because did you watch on Netflix? They have like the movies that made us or whatever, and that's one of them. So there's a good little piece to the Bass and Rankin, and they had to like go back and fix stuff because otherwise they were going to get sued.
Well, here's an interesting thing about Bass and Rankin and Rudolph. You guys realize that, like, you've seen, like, there's Geico commercials that use Rudolph and all these different commercials all over the place using that imagery. At the beginning of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, there's the title sequence, and it says the copyright date. But they wrote it in Roman numerals, and whoever did that misrepresented the Roman numerals. And instead of writing 1962 or 68 or whatever it was, they wrote 1162. So they had a really hard time enforcing their copyright and finally gave up. And people are just using it like with all abandon because it would have expired based on when they published when their copyright existed. And because Rudolph, that title sequence is far more seen, they can argue that, no, you told the world it was 1162. Your copyright has long since expired. And that's why it's entered almost into a de facto public domain.
Did not know that, and that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Where'd Chris go? Crisco.
You guys would be shocked to know that my Christmas tree is all pop culture ornaments. And just in you know, for the year without a Santa Claus, and we're talking about those claymations, here's one of my favorite ornaments.
Oh,
Humble.
love him.
Yep.
Used to scare the hell out of me as a kid.
He's amazing.
I remember being really afraid for Rudolph.
Yeah.
I just recorded a whole video today about my Christmas tree that is covered in Rudolph ornaments. It's a real touching little story. So I'm going to release that right before Christmas.
Do y'all have a hard time streaming Rudolph at your house, or do you have a copy of it to watch?
I have teenagers now, so that Rudolph is out. Rudolph is only for me.
Yeah. Well, I can't find it, like, because it's on CBS, and like CBS has like certain contracts that
Paramount.
you can't. It's on
Paramount? I think Paramount would be the only place that would show it. And I saw a bunch of them. I think on Hulu's got a few as well. But it's difficult. And that's the thing. Like, I always and often will complain that Apple bought the rights to all the Peanuts holiday specials. Yeah. So now, unless you're going to be on Apple TV, they've taken it away. And some of my kids would be like, well, those are boring anyway. Like, my 11-year-old is not enraptured in any way by the Peanuts gang. It takes way too long to set up the joke. So who cares? But I care.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's funny. Just the other thing I was going to say was we talked about Rudolph and the copyright screw up and Margaret keeping all the they didn't really take care of these things very well. They messed up their copyright date. They lost the puppets. I mean, this was a cherished treasure they treated like a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't know it was going to be a cherished treasure at the time. You know, it was a mystery to them. They just thought they were making a great claymation movie, never knowing it was going to become a classic for the rest of us. Kind of like, you know, I got this Beavis and Butthead right here. You know, I'm sure they thought that was going to be a classic. But you know what?
That's right.
It didn't hit.
It
Made
hit.
John angry, but that's about it.
Carmen, you know what you brought up with the misers, like I loved them. And now that you said it, like I'm thinking about the way that you positioned it where you're like they threw so much shade at each other.
Oh yeah.
And that was not like that kind of snarky humor wasn't prevalent, at least it may have been in you know private life, but not in entertainment at the time. There wasn't that snarkiness, particularly when it came to kids stuff. So it's pretty awesome now that I think about all the stuff that they were going back and forth with.
Oh yeah. I put a couple of the scenes on my like Instagram stories because I was watching it, and my older daughter who's in high school, she just thought it was hilarious because like, you know, the snow miser's like, hey, hotcakes, you know, he's calling his brother hotcakes and he's fuming. And one of my favorite parts is when the heat miser sees Mrs. Claus and he's like, hey, Mrs. Claus, where's your husband? And it's the way he says it. And he's like so upset about the whole snow thing with his brother and Santa Claus. So he's like, where's your husband? Making another commercial for my brother. But in my mind, I'm thinking he wants to say something else to Mrs. Claus, you know, like the whole, it's the way he says it. But it's really funny. Yeah. They're the queens of shade to me. Like, it's like, that's the beginning of shade throwing.
I love it. That was my favorite one anyway of all of them. I think
I love them. What's that, Shal?
I said Gen X knows throwing shade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
I loved all of them almost equally. Like there was a pattern to it, but like growing up with Rudolph first, and then like I said, but all of them were by demand must-see TV. We talk about it all the time, the urgency that existed in watching television because, you know, you guys said it. Oh, where do you stream it? Where can I watch it whenever I want to watch it? And that's the mentality today. And if we can't, we're like, what do you mean? I have to wait till CBS decides to show it? I don't have a TV guide anymore. How the hell am I supposed to know when that's going to be? And so we, you know, if we can't watch it on demand, we often miss it entirely now because we don't watch TV the way we used to. We fast forward commercials so we don't get to see don't miss it coming up this Thursday, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It's just a different world.
Yeah, and the whole family getting together to sit down and watch it was like the most memorable thing, like growing up, about these cartoons. And like, I can't get my kids to come in. I'm like, come on, guys, let's watch a Christmas cartoon. And I want to watch one every night. And they're like, like I'm like, come on. Well, what's wrong with you people?
All we had to do was click through, you know, you take the dial and you click through like what, you know, you got maybe 3 to 10 channels at the most, and you click through. Something was bound to be on at 8:00 at night during the Christmas season. So you just kind of flip through and hope to find the best. And, you know, and 2 other ones that I can remember that we didn't talk about was Rudolph's Shiny New Year Nestor the donkey, which
Nestor the long-eared donkey,
the long-eared donkey.
We named him Nestor the ball baby donkey when we were kids because all he did was cry.
Oh my god, it was sad. It was sad. It's still now. I'm sad thinking about Nestor and how he got bullied.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. That was like
characters got bullied.
All of them.
Rudolph.
Yeah.
Santa bullied Rudolph too.
Yes.
Yeah.
His father, Santa, it was like we were being trained as young kids to know, number one, how to bully. And then number two, when it happened, you rose above it. Nobody ever cried necessarily, except for maybe Nestor. They didn't complain to anyone. You know, Rudolph didn't go back home after being not allowed in any of the reindeer games and bitch and moan to his parents. He just ram away. He's like, screw it, I'm out.
Peace out. Because there was a lot of shaming too. You know, like, I'm going to shame you. I'm going to put some mud on your nose, and you know, you don't get to be a part of the reindeer games.
His dad literally rubbed some dirt on it.
Literally.
Literally.
if you think about it too, if you think about it from like, if you think about it from the perspective of the lesson that they were teaching us, though, was it, you look at like take Nestor and Rudolph, for example. What did they have? They had these special abilities based on something physical about them that was different than the other kids. And so they were teaching us a really valuable lesson about how just because somebody might look different or act different, they're special too. Like they're important as well.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Rudolph showed that what made him different also made him awesome. And the same with Nestor. What made him different also made him awesome. And so they were teaching acceptance as well. You had to go through this whole story to get there. And there was a lot of, we look back now, we think, God, Santa bullying Rudolph is kind of ridiculous. But at the end of the day, what happened? The kid, the donkey, the Nestor and Rudolph, ultimately at the end, everybody wanted to be like them, and they were different. And that's a really important lesson for kids.
Yeah, but devil's advocate, you can also say they bullied and cast him out until they really needed him. And the only reason he was accepted at all is he came to school with the shiny new toy. And then they just used him. So if you're the weird kid that has nothing to bring to the table, you're still floating out there on an ice log.
Maybe. I mean, go ahead, Shell.
No, we just have the perfect example here of optimism and pessimism.
Yeah.
One person saying, that whole Rudolph thing, Santa's a jerk, and then Chris is like, yes, but it's a beautiful life lesson.
It is. And it's, and again, like, so however they ended up in the position that they were in, the reality is, they could use that moving forward, and they would be better prepared for challenges ahead of them. So
without a doubt.
I mean, I love it.
There's a reason it's called devil's advocate.
I know. And I want to bring up Bumble again too, because we talked earlier when, I don't know if we were recording or not, about how Gen Z loves or embraces Gen X in our pop culture. And I think without Bumble, there's no Smallfoot, which is one of my favorite animated movies to come out in the last 20 years. I love Smallfoot. Yeah. But you have to think it was a little bit influenced by Bumble.
I did not see Smallfoot, but all I can remember the Bumble and Yukon Cornelius, and when he would lick his little ice pick, nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
Well, and talking about songs, Silver and Gold, one of the best.
Yeah,
like there's certain songs that played through all these movies, and like Silver and Gold, I remember I'm like, was that like a real song that they borrowed? It was hard to imagine that it originated there because it was so prevalent. I made up a word. Prevalent throughout like my childhood growing up. That song just kept coming out, and kids were singing it, and it was just again amazing music. I did want to not forget to say, like, Rochelle, you made me literally feel a moment from my childhood when you said like clicking through the channels at 8 p.m. during the holiday season. And I just remember, okay, it's a Tuesday night, it's 8 o'clock. Mom and Dad are gifting us the right to look and see if there's something on. And you're flipping through and you hit CBS at 8:01 and you see the word special rotating around in a circle with that music and that feeling of, oh my God, I don't know what's about to happen, but it's going to be good. It was the not knowing was part of what made it good. But the word told us this is about to be special. And I don't know if kids have that feeling because they order whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I'm not judging. And in fact, I almost feel bad. That was an amazing feeling.
And did you feel bad when Santa was sick, though? Back to Carmen's movie. Did you feel bad when Santa was sick, or were you like, down with that jerk?
Well, because, I mean, at the time, I didn't connect this Santa with the Santa, back with Rudolph. And then I want to say I didn't even think Santa was a jerk when I was little. It's not till I got older that I'm like, hey, wait a minute, Santa. But I did feel bad for Santa because he's laying in his bed and, he's just like, you know what? Nobody even cares. So let's just cancel it for this year. Who cares? So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the at least 15-minute mark on topic number 1. This is going to be another marathon episode to edit down to our hour. Maybe it'll be a part 1 and part 2. Second topic was
Christmas Vacation. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Love that movie. I don't know. I can watch this movie over and over. I'll have it on in the background while we're just doing nothing,
What's your favorite scene? What's your favorite quote, Carmen, from the entire movie? Because I know if you watch it over and over, I could quote just about the whole thing.
Hey, Griswold, where are you going to put a tree that big?
Bend over and I'll show you.
And we say that in this house. My youngest twins are 8. My oldest is 15. And any chance we can get as parents to say that to them, like, where are we going to put this, or where, inappropriate, but they totally get it's from Christmas Vacation.
I love
Trying
it.
to raise them tough.
Well, why don't you take care of that there, Russ, when he hands a big ball of lights that's all tied up.
Yeah.
That's your family's That's What She Said, right? That's your yeah.
Yeah. We say that one too. We love The Office. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
But what's y'all's favorite vacation, Christmas vacation line? Do y'all have one?
Why is the carpet all wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot.
Mine is, you surprised, Clark? And he's like, Eddie, I'd be more surprised if I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet. Oh, he says, I wouldn't be more surprised if I woke up tomorrow morning with my head sewn to the carpet. I wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now.
Yeah, for me, it's the I pledge allegiance all the way through play ball. I absolutely love that scene.
That's hilarious.
The blessing.
Oh my gosh.
So we talked about vacation as a topic on a previous episode, and I think we all agreed pretty much as we loved vacation for being introducing a lot of us to John Candy and, all the Christy Brinkley scenes and whatever. We agreed that Christmas Vacation was kind of like Godfather 2 in that the sequel was actually better than the original.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And for me, I absolutely loved Christmas Vacation, if at all possible, even more than the original Vacation. Definitely.
Yeah. I think too, because with Christmas Vacation, it's a must watch during the month of December.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So that amps it up, and everything that he goes through, you just at some point in your life, you go through that during Christmas. It's totally relatable.
The Christmas lights.
I went to Walmart this year. We were talking about this before. I went to Walmart this year. I've seen this cute little stuffed squirrels just in all of their stuff. I took a squirrel and I literally shoved it down into the back of my tree. And so when people are coming, because my family loves to come and look at the ornaments and see how everything is decorated, they can see the squirrel in there, because I laugh every single time, even though I know that squirrel is bouncing around on his back. I still laugh.
It's hilarious. For them to even come up with that little whole shtick with the squirrel, I mean, the writers just A1.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And another great thing about Christmas Vacation and 80s movies in general is who we got introduced to and then watching them grow in their careers. So, of course, Rusty becomes Leonard Hofstadter in Big Bang Theory. Also, he's in Roseanne, but and then Juliette Lewis. So we see these two early on in their careers, and then, wow, what amazing careers they had moving forward. And I mean, just how lucky, or I shouldn't say lucky, but how I say how fortunate and also how talented for Johnny Galecki to be part of 3 of the most, I would say, biggest pop culture iconic shows, movies, whatever, with Christmas Vacation, Roseanne, and then The Big Bang Theory. So yeah, I mean, it's cool to go back and see people getting started like that as well.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, he's whatever he touches turns to gold, silver and gold.
Let's hope not.
Silver and gold.
Awesome.
Well, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus too. Christmas Vacation was 89.
Yeah.
When did Seinfeld really take off? Was it early 90s?
It started in 89, first season.
Yeah.
First season was the Seinfeld Chronicles from the pilot. No one was really watching,
Yeah.
except for me.
And she didn't come in until few episodes later, right? She wasn't in the first
She
few episodes.
wasn't in the pilot. They were going to have a waitress play the female role. That was going to be who was going to be important in Seinfeld to the pilot. They had a waitress that was going to be a recurring kind of like Carla attitude from Cheers. And then they decided, no, we need somebody more prevalent as a friend. And they brought in the Elaine character. I love Seinfeld.
Thank God. I love Seinfeld.
Love Seinfeld. But yeah, she came off of SNL and filmed that, and her character, it was just I've said it before, I love movies where it's almost like there's the movie and then there's the movie you don't see, but subconsciously maybe you imagine. Like, we could see this movie from the neighbor's point of view. That would be an entirely different movie, and still just as entertaining, just to see how they deal with living next door to the Griswolds. You've got Cousin Eddie. That's it. There's all these other movies going on at the same time. And those are the kinds of things that I don't see as much. It's the other dimensional, third dimensional aspect to these movies that we grew up with.
Well, there was a Cousin Eddie. I don't know if it was a Vacation or a Cousin Eddie Christmas Vacation Part 2, straight to DVD kind of a movie. It exists. I know it does because at one point I owned it, but I never watched it. I think I bought it for my kids and never stuck it in the VCR, and then off it went to Goodwill or something. But it does exist.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
It's not like Cowtail's alien letter exists. It actually exists. You've seen it. You've had eyes on it, because sometimes, Shell, in all fairness, you say things exist, and the rest of the world not so sure.
Yeah. 2 out of 7 billion agree with you. Yeah,
that's right. 2 people agree with me that they know what the alien letter is. That's right.
Yeah. I still love too. Like, I mean, that what is it, Clark? It's it's a membership to the Jelly of the Month Club and Cousin Eddie. Well, Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving all the year long. Yes, it does.
I remember as a kid being like, how big is this Christmas bonus? I mean, in-ground pool.
Yeah.
Still, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when he says it's, what is the bonus? 20%. He goes, take your bonus and add 20%. And he faints. I'm like, what is this guy making? How much
is he put in the in-ground pool with it?
That's what I mean.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was 17,000. How much was the pool?
15 grand, I think. 15,000. 15 is in my head, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So adjusted for inflation, that's like 42,000. Yeah. That's about right, I guess.
And if there was enough left over, he was going to fly everybody in on his dime.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't bougie enough back in the 80s for in-ground pools. We were above ground, blow up, white trash kind of bougie in my neighborhood.
Wow.
Hey, me and my cousins try to make a hole for our own pool, so.
Did it work?
No.
We got into some serious trouble for making a hole in his backyard. So
now that should be a small town drama episode.
Yeah, that should.
We used to do the slip and slides together, and we would take and pull together all the neighborhood slip and slides and tie them together and put them in one big string and put them down the hill till you had a good run, and then we would get all these blankets down at the bottom until there was like a mud pit that you could land yourself in. I wish I had pictures of it because we did it all the time.
Not to jump off the slip and slide topic, but no, we haven't even talked about the whole one of the great scene with the perfume counter girl. Oh. I mean, could be any hooter hotter than it is.
So I was talking to my wife about that, though, and I brought it up when we talked about Vacation. I still think it's funny that in both Vacation and then later Christmas Vacation, they're basically telling us that the good guy in the story, Clark is, if given the opportunity, an adulterer, and we're all laughing. He jumps into the pool naked. I mean, he's obviously my 11-year-old. We watched Vacation, and my wife and I are laughing and enjoying the movie, and my 11-year-old's like, does he want to kiss her? But he's married. And I'm thinking, oh, damn. It's like he And it was, and we say it, that was then.
Yeah. The whole movie's inappropriate, and I'll when I first started showing this to my kids, I was like, oh, maybe, wait, hold on. I didn't see it then. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, oh my God. But now they're so used to this movie, they don't even care.
I showed it to my kids fairly young, having had a break in there of not watching it, maybe, but those years before you have kids. So I started showing, oh, you're going to love this. This is a Christmas movie. And I'm sitting there like, oh, baby. Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe we should stop that.
I call that an airplane moment. I watched
Yeah.
Airplane for the first time with my youngest when she was 10.
Yeah.
Because it was PG.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just did a video on this. Airplanes, Trains, and Automobiles was R because of a string of 18 F words uttered in a row. But Airplane was PG. So I watching it as, you know, the little girl is served her coffee, or the woman is running back and forth topless on the plane. I mean, I don't know how stupid or slow I am, because I had a few of those. Ooh, should I stop it? Oh, but I never did.
But it was
Isn't there like on that one where like the little the blow up like comes down
Yes.
and
Yeah, and
Yes.
her head is in its lap.
yeah.
She
My
had to
daughter's
blow
like,
up.
"What's he doing?" And
Smoking
my
a
wife's
cigarette.
like, "She's blowing up the balloon."
Yeah.
Pilot.
my parents took me, but I mean, that was what it was just different. Like my parents, because my dad had a small production company, he was introducing me to entertainment earlier than I should have been. And I was 7, I think, and my mom and dad took me to the movie theater to see a movie called Silver Streak with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. And the very first scene, to your point, this girl comes out of the train car topless, and I this is one of my first memories. My mom looked at my dad and like, what the hell are you doing? And my dad's like, oh, well, you know, I mean, he's not going to remember when he gets home. He's 7. He's not going to he doesn't even know what's happening right now. I really didn't at 7 years old, but I did remember all the F-bombs. And just like the little kids in South Park, if you ever saw the South Park movie, where they came out of the theater and they're dancing and singing the song with all the F-bombs in it, that's what I was doing.
And you remembered
you did remember.
40 years later.
Yeah, 46 years later, and I still remember that scene. It was, pretty amazing.
There were so many topless scenes. I feel like, you know, you had it was
On
so
vacation.
normal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I loved it on the vacation. Like he does like a throwback to almost like the Fast Times at Ridgemont High, like where she's like in the red bikini, she jumps in the pool, comes out, and I'm like, don't do it, Clark.
And that's when Eddie's little girl comes in and she says something about, you know, and last Christmas we got, was it shafted? She said, we got
the shaft.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite quotes too, from my Christmas tree. Shitter's full.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Hold on, my old eyes. I have to put glasses on.
There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So far, I have an ornament for every movie you talked about.
Oh,
Which is a
cool.
good segue to bring us, I guess, to the third topic that we are going to discuss today, which is
Home Alone. I've been seeing so many like different things on social media of people like kind of like I guess their take on Home Alone. There's this girl on Instagram, and she's she's the neighbor. She goes, if you were the neighbor, you know, to these people, like all the things that she would say or do, like, oh look, little Kevin's out there doing this again. Like it's hilarious. I need to find her and send it to you because it's really funny.
I just remember their house being the most gigantic thing I had ever seen. And you know, no wonder they lost little Kevin in it, because it was like he could have been 4 floors away and 17 rooms later.
Yeah.
so
and then
somebody
like,
actually asked me about that. I got a message from one of my followers saying, hey, is there any, you know, why, you know, it wasn't just little Kevin, it was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the house that Steve Martin's family lived in, and it basically was because of the neighborhood that John Hughes grew up in, was a very affluent Chicago suburb, and still is to this day. So it just speaks to his story and what he grew up seeing. And those are the kinds of neighborhoods that he filmed in. And that's why all the houses look like that.
Yeah. There was definitely a look to all of his movies. And, you know, it comes from, of course, right, experience of what you've experienced. And so, yeah, I always wanted to live in a house like that, or anything like the house from 16 Candles. Always a 2-story, always this beautiful, like, representation of the perfect neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. And the one of the worst parts of that movie, whenever I watched it when I was a lot younger, and I was older, I mean, but still, the spider on the face, That might
Oh.
have been the freakiest moment for me in the entire film.
Yeah. I hate spiders.
I do too.
Not a fan.
I do too. I've talked about that before, I think, on an episode where I said that you could, if somebody tried to rob me at gunpoint, I'd probably at least try to fight. But if you rob me at spider point, you can have everything. Like, you put a tarantula in my face and I'll be like, dude, whatever, just please, like, I'll garnish my wages, whatever it is. Just don't,
No, the fear is real with spiders. We were driving and I live in a country area, and we were taking my daughter to like this little party, and there was this thing in the middle of the road, and I told my husband, I said, "Look, there's a puppy." So it moves off the street, this like dirt road, and I pull up, and he says, "Oh, I'm gonna go get it." So he brings it to the Suburban, and I open up the window, and he has it in his hat, and I'm like, "What kind of puppy is this?" Oh my God, it's a tarantula. I thought I was gonna die. I screamed, my body just like went cold. I was like freaked out. I was like, it looked at me. So I was like, I was gonna have nightmares. It looked at me, get it out of here. I can't. Yeah. It was as big as a puppy.
Went to college in the hills of California, and that was the same thing. Like, they would come out and sun themselves on the road, and we would go on these field trips because I was in a science program. So we go on these field trips in these vans, and I'm like, what is that sound? And it was, and it was just hitting all of the tarantulas that were all over hitting themselves on the road. It was, I could still feel and hear that.
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
that's so gross.
I'd be dead.
Shell, you mentioned we were older with Home Alone, and you're right, because it came out, what, 1990?
90.
I was a freshman when it came out.
And I was 20. But I remember, like, in my memory, I'm a kid watching these, because what Home Alone did really well for me is, in my memory, when I sat watching it the first, second, third time, it really did take me back to being a kid. Because even though the fact is, this wasn't a movie I grew up watching as a kid, my memory plays tricks on me, and I feel like I did, because I've watched it so many times and then got to enjoy it with my kids. It's one of the movies that held up.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I oversold Year Without a Santa Claus. I oversold even Christmas Vacation on my kids, because there's more moments of downtime in those movies than I remembered, and kids today seem to not do well with that downtime. It's that TikTok every minute, something's got to grab my attention. Home Alone does that.
Yeah.
So
my kids love it too.
Yeah, absolutely kept their attention. Home Alone 1, Home Alone 2.
2, they love part 2.
Yep. After that, it kind of falls off.
Yeah.
Did you see that Macaulay Culkin did a new version with the Google Assistant, the Alexa kind of thing? He did a new commercial as himself now, but using Google to assist him to beat all the bad guys down.
It's I mean, I love it, and I think too, like, to your point, John, about how you feel like you were a kid when you were watching it, and there were still some movies in the 90s that did that. Like, for example, for me, The Sandlot. I feel like I was a kid when I watched that, but I was 26 when it came out. And Home Alone is the exact same way. And it's really, I never really thought about it that way, but it's true. Like, I feel like I was 10 when I watched Home Alone.
It plays tricks on our memories on an emotional level, because it throws, in my memory, I lump Home Alone and Sandlot in with the movies I watched in the early 80s, because they're of that kind of movie. So my memory lumps them together. If I didn't know better, I'd say, Sandlot was 83 and Home Alone was 85, when we know for a fact they weren't.
Yeah.
And Chris, to your point, when you said about I believe our generation is very much kids at heart. I think we do lump that stuff together because a lot of us really enjoyed our youth, and then we stayed kids, maybe because we were adults too early, so we stayed kids for all those years, and we remember something when we're 26 as if we were 12, and I could see that.
I love that.
Yeah,
and we're still doing it today. Like, my wife was like, "Who's coming on the show today?" And I said, "Well, Carmen, the person I've done those collaborations with." I go, "She's going to come play with us," and that's what it feels like. Like, Carmen's coming over today, and she's going to play with us. Because, come on, our parents would not have done this. They wouldn't, and we're still doing all the other things. We're still working 40 hours a week. We're still raising our kids. We're still making sure the house is kept up and the bills are paid. But somehow, we're allocating that time that our parents to play still. And I think that's incredible. And Carmen, we always talk about, it's a 3-view mirror because the three of us are looking back, but like a rear view mirror, we're still driving forward at the time. And, how can we show what's in the rearview mirror into our future? And that's part of this. Just keep playing, keep enjoying these movies and sharing them and still be a kid.
Yeah.
Gen X always shared the sandbox.
Or you could be like me and still Peter Pan, no kids, never married. We talk about it all the time, right? You're like, oh, we're all taking care of our kids. I'm like, speak for yourself. I got a kid. He's 72 pounds, but the little Bodie boy over here. But I also with Home Alone too, like we were talking about how you look back and you see like Santa Claus and you're like, oh my God, he was like actually bullying Rudolph. And, there's questions about the Karate Kid, who was the real bully in the Karate Kid. Was Daniel actually the bully at the end of it? And then you think about Home Alone and how ridiculous these parents were that they left their kid and they went on vacation, like just totally forgot him and didn't even realize it until much later. And so there's always that conversation around how could they have possibly forgotten their kid? I don't have kids. Maybe you can forget them. I don't know. But I feel like if my parents forgot me, it would have been on purpose, like Joe Dirt. They would have just like left me at a rest stop somewhere.
Oh my God, Joe Dirt.
Well, my kids brought that up the first time. They're like, did they not know that they didn't? And I'm like, guys, it's not as uncommon as you think. Now, maybe our generation uncommon as parents, but our generation as kids, I'm like, I could totally see. I mean, how many times you weren't a Gen X kid if you weren't lost at the mall? If you weren't lost at the store, if you were, I mean, our parents lost us left and right. And yeah, this was a leap because it's a movie, but it's not that big of a leap.
Yeah. No, and it wasn't even our parents. Like, I think back to school, our teachers didn't just let us run free. I was in kindergarten and I remember one day I decided to walk home. And after my mom, she came to pick me up and they had the whole town looking for me. I was at home enjoying a snack or a bowl of cereal, watching some cartoons or whatever. And they had to change the whole rule at our elementary school that the teachers had to wait till we were actually picked up by our parents.
We had the same rule at my school, but I didn't know until this moment why we called it the Carmen Q. Galahar rule.
At the time, it was called the Carmen Quintanilla rule.
Well, Home Alone also, obviously, what's fascinating about Home Alone for me too is that I think about certain actors or actresses and the roles that they played, and when they go outside of that, and whether they can pull it off. And so you have a guy like Joe Pesci, who's known to be the mobster.
Yeah.
And he pulled off the comedy. He pulled off the physical comedy the same way that De Niro did with, Meet the Parents, where suddenly he goes from the mobster and then the guy that we're all afraid of to suddenly Meet the Parents. And, we're supposed to be afraid of the dad, but it was comedy. And so Joe Pesci was able to pull that off. And then John Candy doing his little cameo, and in the polka thing. So it's great.
I remember it kind of being a big deal that Joe Pesci was in this doing a comedy rather than, his normal stuff. I remember that.
Rochelle's always really good at reminding us that no matter what the host has in mind for the hidden connection or the connection of these shows, there's always so many more that we don't realize. And just watching, I was thinking, we talked about how the shows with Year Without a Santa Claus, they were interconnected. There were the sequels that came to it. And with Christmas Vacation, it was a sequel that I actually love better than the original. And there's a connection because with Home Alone, it also succeeded in spawning a sequel. Home Alone 2 was at least as good in a lot of ways as Home Alone. And I love that they were able to take something we loved and make more of it. And all of these did that.
And I noticed the theme of bullies, as Carmen pointed out, I never really thought about Santa being a bully. I mean, because that's the way it was at the time. You didn't think about Santa being a bully. But then, there's the bullies in Home Alone. They're trying to bully a kid. And then Clark, in so many ways, he's a bully to cousin Eddie, all the time. So, that would be another thing that is running through my mind.
And Clark's boss was a bully.
Yes,
I mean, absolutely. So there's absolutely the bully in that movie as well. That's a great connection. That if it's not the connection, then it's something that's there as well, and it runs through.
Frank Shirley brought from his holiday slumber over there on Melody Lane with all the other rich people, right here with a big red ribbon on him. And of course, there goes
dog farting, whatever they do. That whole spiel is.
I love the
There-
scene where Eddie just slips out during that. Like all of a sudden you just see him like, there
Yeah.
he goes.
It's gone. His heart is bigger than his brain. It's like just, yeah.
Eddie.
It's the trombone playing in the background when it dun 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 dun. You know, when he's
Yeah.
in his big RV, you know,
Yeah.
kicking him through the door.
Gotta love that RV.
Something Carmen mentioned earlier too, when we think about, connections, and it might be too obvious because you mentioned it earlier, but you had talked about all people, gathering around as a family to watch these holiday specials, and in this instance, Christmas specials. But that is a big thing for me. I remember watching The Year Without a Santa Claus with my family. I watched Christmas Vacation at home when I came home from college for Christmas with my family. Home Alone was the same way. Like, I watched it with my friends, but I did watch it with my family. And, I know we have those shows now, but, my family is my dog Bodie. So he watches whatever I want to watch.
No, and I think the three of us could tell you that even with extended families, kids and whatnot, it doesn't happen the same way. It's very hard to make that happen.
And one of the most best memories I have about watching those Christmas shows with family was because you usually had a console TV that sat on the floor. Your favorite place to sit and watch that show was sitting crisscross applesauce, we used to call it Indian style, sitting Indian style in front of the TV while your parents had the comfy couches or whatever it was they had. There were no big sectionals. Maybe there was a recliner and one couch, and the kids sat on the floor. And sitting on the floor like that, watching a Christmas special, watching that CBS spiral come down was absolutely, it's burning my brain forever.
Yeah. Yeah, you wanted to sit in front of the TV as close as you could, right? But get away from it because you're gonna go, you're
gonna ruin your eyes.
Yeah.
And it created a closeness. We talk about how our families were close during these moments, but it created a physical closeness as well. Because if you had siblings, they were literally 2 inches next to you on the floor. So we were all huddled together, sharing the Jiffy Pop. You're right. It literally burned forever in my brain. One of my happiest, best moments. And it happened more around the holidays than anything else.
So are we like snow miser, way cold from what the connection is, or are we more heat miser, getting close to what the connection is?
Chris, I like your thinking.
You're getting close. I guess, you're kind of getting close. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds a little lukewarm.
So we're on the connection.
You're lukewarm.
Anybody have anything else to say on before we? I mean, there's still a lot on Home Alone.
Carmen's shirt. I mean, the quote on her shirt is fantastic. I mean, how many people know that quote? And a lot of people who never even saw the movie.
Yeah.
The impact that some of these quotes have had from these classic movies, even people haven't seen them. And Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. I'd probably say that 25 or 30 times during the Christmas season.
He said it when he got his star on the Walk of Fame. That was his
really?
last line.
Did he really?
Yeah. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I literally looked for the movie he was watching in the hotel during during the hotel, and then earlier on the TV on the original Home Alone, and didn't realize they created those for the movie.
It's fake.
It's fake.
Really?
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, what is this movie? This is a cool movie. I want to watch. But they made it for the movie.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
I thought it was a real movie. I didn't want to look it up. It was black and white. I mean, what do I want to look that up for?
I watched black and white, and I thought that was cool because even though this was the 90s, when we were kids, we watched Laurel and Hardy. We watched Abbott and Costello. Yeah, we watched some of those things,
Three
even though they weren't black and white. Little Rascals.
Yeah.
The Abbott and Costello. I did the for my junior year talent show. My buddy and I did Who's on First. And we were in my room for, probably 2 weeks straight, just trying to memorize all of it because there was so much to it. And we pulled it off. But that was they did that.
I know a lot of it. We memorized it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
But we all knew it. We all knew what it was from.
Yeah.
And I think that's what our parents, they showed us. And I think that's kind of what we try to do, right, with our kids is show them what we love because our parents showed us kind of like what they loved to watch when they were kids. And we watched it all and we loved it. And I think it's just so disappointing, you know, when we show our kids something and they're like, like, oh.
See, I'll go the other way too, though. Like my parents didn't, so a different experience. My parents immigrated here from Greece, so they couldn't show me what they watched as kids. But even without that push, we discovered it on our own. And what I find disheartening sometimes is today, with the entire library of the history of the world available to them, they don't search it out. You know, I watched I Love Lucy with my mom. I watched these old shows and the Bing Crosby Christmas movies, to bring it back to Christmas, Silver Bells and White Christmas. And just, you know, we watched them partly because it was on TV and our parents dictated sometimes what was on TV, but we search this stuff out and they don't, because I think there's too much available today for them to take the time to look at what happened yesterday.
Yeah. So YouTube is huge, which is why I love YouTube, right? Because YouTubers are the new TV stars. This is what kids watch. And anytime that I come up with a skit and I talk about like a TV show or whatever, that's when they go search it. They're like, oh, I searched what you were talking about and I love it. And they'll watch it. Like I did something on 90210. So they went and checked out 90210 and, you know, just I think that's what's cool about that. Like we can show them what we did, but through YouTube. And I have to I'm like, hey kids, my own kids, hey, watch my YouTube and so you can learn something, because they won't listen to me. They'll listen to my character.
That's funny.
But John, you bring up a good point too. Like, you know, you brought this up earlier. I think Carmen, you did as well, which is that we had a window to watch these things, and then that window was gone until the next holiday season.
Yeah.
If they want to watch Christmas Vacation or A Year Without a Santa Claus or Home Alone, it's just they can watch it in March or June or September. And, you know, that's great, but there also is there's a little bit of romanticism, as we've talked about with Blockbuster and other things, and not always getting what you want at your fingertips when it comes to entertainment and having to wait.
So I don't know. We've danced around topics. We've talked about, we started with A Year Without a Santa Claus. We jumped over to Christmas Vacation. We landed on Home Alone. We've talked about some possible connections. Do you guys have any idea where this might go?
Maybe. I had said about the bullies, but then I'm just thinking it's not exactly about the bullies. Maybe it's about the unlikely hero that would be in these movies, because Kevin would have been an unlikely hero in the movie. And oh no, we weren't talking about Rudolph though. We weren't really talking
about A Year Without a Santa Claus.
No, but Mrs. Claus is the huge unlikely hero in that.
Yeah.
Her and the tiny little reindeer, who was Vixen, who was an adult in the earlier movie and then a child again. So they little bit of a time warp there as I think about it. But no, that fits.
Yeah, and then in Christmas Vacation, you know, Cousin Eddie maybe being an unlikely hero that isn't considered throughout the entire piece, but then at the end you're like, oh, okay, they saved the day.
Mm-hmm. That's a great connection.
That's a great connection. I like it. I would have, Carmen, if I was you, I'm like, you got it.
That's really good. Really good.
All the time when we come up with stuff.
Well, John, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to go as deep as Shell, because like I saw your, the one with like the
Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, that one was good. Like you like really got into it. I was like, John, mine's not going to be that good.
See, but it could have been. You could have been. She does this every episode. I sometimes I just grab three. Yeah, I just grab three random things and let Shell connect them. And the truth, there's nothing there. All right, big reveal.
Yeah.
Okay,
so giving us one. You got nothing?
Me?
Yeah.
I kind of thought I got nothing.
Well, it's on the family. It's like about family.
Yeah, I mean, what Chris said, as far as it drew us all together, you know, that's a huge thing for me. That's what these, all in different eras, all in different formats. One was, you know, a cartoon, and one was a straight out comedy. And Home Alone, I'll always say, crossed so many different genres that it's hard to classify, but they all did the same thing. They got us all in front of the TV as a secondary purpose to watch the show, but the primary was to connect with our family.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
That's
I'll
it?
take that one. No, it's not. Okay, so mine had to do with family, and it's about, growing up, did you ever think that like my family's so messed up, like nobody else's family is as messed up as mine? Yeah, they are. Okay, and it shows through like all of these movies, right? The misers, they're so dysfunctional, like there's so much
Yeah.
jealousy between them. Vacation, I mean, the family itself and the extended family coming in proves that everybody's kind of wackadoo, right? And then Home Alone just takes it over the top with, the parents leaving their kid at home. So like you have these families who are so dysfunctional, yet they come together and they're still a family and they love each other. And to me, like watching these things, I'm like, oh, I'm not so messed up after all. Our family's not so messed up after all, because everybody's like that throughout the years. It doesn't matter, so that's kind of like what I got from the movie, just like
I
these
love it.
dysfunctional,
Crazy dysfunctional Christmas families.
I love it. I love it.
Carmen, you're deeper than you think. That was awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then I had to go the red hair route, right? Because I dyed my hair red. And we were talking about bullies, right? And like the heat miser, just he's out of control. And Kevin's mom was redhead, and she was kind of a jerk to Kevin. Like she took Buzz aside when Buzz was a complete animal to Kevin. And then and then Clark's mother-in-law is a redhead, and she's just like mean to everybody. Like she just like impossible. So there's that, little redhead connection going on. I'm super nice though.
That is, I like the redhead connection.
No, but I totally like get it with the heat miser. Like I get his like whole shtick about him and his brother, because if you have siblings, you feel the same way. Like mom loves you more, or
Bicker
that
buddies.
kind of deal.
That's what we used to call it. Bicker buddies. You just bicker back and forth, and every family does it. And we all look. It was one of the reasons that shows like Roseanne became so popular, was because they weren't afraid to fight. They weren't afraid to bicker. They weren't afraid to be themselves and such. So
yeah, and you had that along with because we were watching the Cosby Show first, and we're like, oh, this perfect family. I wish my family was like this. And then Roseanne comes along and shows you the real American family. Like no, this is us. This is our family, and this is the struggle we go through. And yeah, she's saved a lot of us from thinking we weren't perfect.
Yeah. And you forget all of the underlying messages, like Chris said, about the very positive messages in all of these Christmas movies, and there's so many messages that are put throughout all the programming that they had for us as kids. And I think there was thought put into it. And I wonder today, I don't know if I watch anything with enough depth to ask myself that, but do the kids shows today do the same? I don't know. My kids aren't young anymore. And so I don't know.
The kids shows, like the kids, that my older kids, my high school kids, they watched a lot of kids shows. My younger kids, my twin 8-year-old and 9-year-old, they do not. They watch YouTube. Like their stuff is YouTube.
Yeah, my 11-year-old, we have a TV in the back room, the kids' room, and she's never on the TV back there. It might be on, but I go, what are you doing? She's like, I'm on phone. I'm like, okay. Watching YouTube, watching those things. Yeah. It's just cool. Like, I love it, Carmen, because we talked about how these shows created forced family time in a really good way, that we were the dysfunctional family on both sides of the television. We were the dysfunctional family coming together, showing love and appreciation for each other on one side of the TV while we were watching the same thing on the other. And that parallel structure, as I look back now, is something that probably I've never thought about before. And that's the thing that I love most about these episodes, is it really, I don't think there's been one that hasn't forced me to look back and see things differently than how I remembered it initially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I never really thought about it that way.
So that gives me kind of like an idea off this topic, right? Because we're talking about like coming together, family time. Because watching sitcoms together with my family was like a huge deal too. Like whatever we could watch together was something that we did. But like, I mean, we need to do that again, right? Like, but through like the kids through YouTube. And I get lots of comments like from younger kids. I watched this with my mom and she remembers this, that you did this, and we watch you together. Maybe we need to start doing stuff to where it's like, okay, YouTube is the new family together time kind of deal, I think
the thing is, I'm afraid we'll ruin it. Like anytime we try to meet our kids where they are, they leave. Like when Gen Xers, we all said during like the pandemic, the whole COVID thing, a lot of us Gen Xers had downtime for the first time, maybe in our entire lives. And we found TikTok and we started connecting. And as soon as we got there, kids were like, we don't want you here.
I love the connection. I love, as you all know, I love 80s movies. I love movies in general, but I really love 80s movies and early 90s. And I never thought about these movies in that way, the dysfunctional families, the Year Without a Santa Claus or the Misers. And I really think it's a great message for all of us. And I never really thought about it because my family, just like everybody's, 80s was the divorce decade. And so, I was part of that. And to be able to see, when my family got together for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I thought, who are these people? Like when I'm sitting at the kids' table, the adults are all just, what did we use the word earlier? Wackadoodles. Like I couldn't understand all of them. And still to this day, I don't, most of them. But I will say that looking back now and thinking about that connection, it's awesome because it did start to introduce us the problems that they presented in movies and TV shows about family before the 80s were a little, I don't want to say cheesy, but kind of after school special-ish. And then it was the 80s where they really started to kind of tackle the dysfunction in a real way. But do it in a way that's fun and comedy and make you laugh instead of, make you go back and go, oh my God, this sucks. You actually laughed at it and hopefully took that humor into your life as well.
We're just really pointing out what the American family really is. Yeah. And it's full of moments like those and little annoyances and love and tenderness and unhappiness and happiness and everything all rolled into one.
Love it.
Yep.
I couldn't have wrapped it up better myself, Shell. I mean, honestly, it is exactly all of that. So as we wrap things up, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here again on this very special episode of the ThreeView Mirror as we celebrate dysfunctional families, love, and getting together to talk about all the things that made the 70s, 80s, and 90s as special as they were. For this week's episode, this is John Catrides signing off and just saying, if you're enjoying the episode, please remember to subscribe, share with your friends, and make sure to leave a comment down in the comment section so we know you're...
Comment down below.
And thank you, Carmen, for coming on and being an awesome hostess. This was cool for me because, this is a new world for me. Being introduced to everybody here, Shell and John, I'm getting, gotten to know over the last few months, but it's a whole new world for me. It was super exciting and cool to meet you, and you did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I was very nervous to do this, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to find 3 things that connect? But we did it, guys.
You rocked it. You really did. You did an amazing job. I mean, we've been doing this now for a while, and to just jump in on this was absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
You and yours a happy and dysfunctional, whatever it may be, holiday season.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Stay rad, everybody.